Keep watching to see the inspiration behind this painting and how I went about painting it. Hi there. It's, about 40 to 8 in the morning. I'm walking beans and I just thought I'd share this with you. I think I've taken a few shots and I think some of them will make really nice paintings. So watch this space. Listen to the birds though. They're being a little bit quiet today. Can you hear them? I love it when it's like this, quiet, and you're just at one with everything. I hope you have a lovely start to your day as well. I'll see you soon. So this is the photograph I've chosen to use. I like it because it's got light filtering through the branches and the leaves, and light makes such a huge difference in a painting. This is Keddie paper, which is spelled Khadi. I think it's Japanese, and I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. I love it. It might be a little bit on the thin side. I'm going to find out soon, aren't I? Great fun about paper is that it's obviously a lot less expensive than painting on wood or canvas, so you can really go for it and not worry about trying to be too precise. There's a great quote. I'm going to find it for you. Only when he no longer knows what he's doing does the painter do good things. Edward Degas. So I've got the picture up. First off, I'm going to do a very quick sketch of it. And what I like to do is to use as few lines as possible in my initial sketch. And that's really to keep things very, very fresh and free. So I've got a sort of the end of what I can see of the wood here. I have some vegetation here. I have a tree trunk here and another prominent tree trunk there and another one a bit further off in the distance, and then various other tree trunks but very much in the distance. I've got some vegetation here, actually pretty much all across here and going down here. That's it. That's all I'm doing. Oh, I'm going to draw the light in actually. That's quite important. But if you have light going through trees, it just creates such magic, and we have that here. So we've got, so if I've got and I've got to make sure that nothing's really too central. If I've got a tree trunk here, I will have a shadow here. So I'm going to put in that shadow there, and then I've got light coming either side of it, so that bit's light. Now I'm never going to remember any of this, but I'm just having a sort of a think about it. So I've got two big areas of light, and it's sort of darker over here. I've got some dark vegetation here. Okay, let's get going. I'm going to put my paint out. I've got cadmium yellow. It's called cadmium yellow pale. I quite like a pale cadmium yellow. Sometimes a straightforward cadmium yellow can be a little bit orangey. I'm going to also put some lemon yellow out. Lots of greens, so I'm going to have French ultramarine blue. I'm going to have some white. I've got zinc white here. Zinc white is a more sort of transparent white than titanium white. Titanium white is very, very opaque. Now, in the background, the bit I'm going to start on first is I'm going to concentrate on this background, these white bits, not the trees, but the white, the sky, and very bright light in the background. And the reason for that is it will be almost impossible to do after I've painted the trees in. So I'm not going to use white. I'm going to mix up a colour. I'm going to use a base of white, then I'm going to use a bit of yellow ochre and a bit of the lemon yellow, and just a tiny bit. So I'm damping my brush down and I'm going to mix up some, my paint is going to dry really quickly today, by the way. So I'm just so I'm going to spray it with water. So I've got some titanium, no, not titanium, it's zinc white. I'm going to add the tiniest little bit of yellow ochre and a little bit of yellow. I might actually change this to titanium white. Lovely sort of warm creamy white. Now here we go. This is it. I'm just quickly going to paint in over here. It is maybe touch on the, so if I was to put just plain white in, you can see the difference. I'll mix that in a bit. So you've got this sort of yellowy colour. Now I've got to put this basically all over the top because I'm not going to be able to paint any of that in, and I don't want the white showing through. Well, it's not even white, it's sort of a creamy colour, this paper, but I do want to get this covered. Now I've got quite a lot of graphite lines showing through, and that might actually end up in the final painting. I don't know if I'm too bothered about that. I might just add a little bit. Now I'm just going to let that dry, and in the meantime I'm going to mix up a little bit of green, and that's going to be the ultramarine, and I'm mixing it up with a brush that's got white paint on it. I've got a horrible colour, I don't like it. Might use it for something else. Okay, so I'm just roughly getting, I need to mix up more paint. Come on, Lynn. It's one of the things I always say to people, mix up plenty of paint, and I haven't. So that's quite thick, and see how I'm holding the brush? I'm not holding it like a pencil, I'm just holding it really roughly, and I just want to get some paint down. Let's go for a slightly lighter yellow, so I'm just mixing on my palette. I'm going to put that bright yellow in here before I lose it. Just there and there. Okay, just that light shining through the trees, and then just roughly mixing and painting. Not sure about this paper. Another shade of green. So lots of shades of green. This is the green with a tiny bit of white in it, which makes it slightly grey. I don't want to mix any of this in too much because then I lose the spontaneity, but I do want to get rid of all those little bits of white paper. Okay, I'm just going to put a bit more of that in. I'm looking over my shoulder occasionally just to see what I'm doing with the composition and what's going on. Is there any light? No, there's no light over there. There is light over here somewhere. Okay. Okay. What I haven't got on my palette, which I almost always have, but today I haven't, is raw umber. So I'm using the yellow ochre as an alternative, and that will sort of make a different green. It makes actually a very, very nice olive green. So I'm going to put a bit of that everywhere. So already you see you're layering up, and that's the key for an interesting painting, is to layer up. And you can do it with texture, you can do it with paint colours, you can do it with marks. In this case it's pretty much paint colour. I'd forgotten how difficult it is painting with acrylics in this sort of heat. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's quite hard. Everything's drying really quickly. Oh well. Right. Let's put that shadow in. Let's get a bit of that in. I don't particularly like that blue in there, so I'm going to move that around. Right. This is pretty dry now. I'm going to use my spatula. I bought a new one. It's not broken. And I'm going to get some different colours in to draw in these trees. Now the trees are obviously brown. I don't know how much brown I actually really want. I think I'm going to go for burnt sienna and a little bit of ultramarine blue added to that. And the ultramarine blue, I've got not enough ultramarine blue to my burnt sienna. Different colours have different tinting abilities, if you like. So something like lemon yellow, if you add another colour to that, it's sort of, it's very thin lemon yellow. It doesn't really have a lot of oomph to it. Whereas something like titanium white is very opaque. Now I'm going to get these trees back in before I lose them completely. There's this one. Now you see what this has done is it's given we've got this lovely sort of darkened burnt umber, and I'm just really, I might change from this thing actually to a proper brush, because this is actually quite difficult doing it with this. But let's just that's far too low down. This one disappears actually behind vegetation, so I might just leave that as it is. So I'm just trying to draw them in roughly. I quite like the fact that they are sort of rough. I'm going to now mix a little bit of green into that dark brown that I made, and the reason for that is the trunks in the background are becoming lighter because they're further away, so I want to give that illusion of depth. And there's one there. It's quite difficult to do with this, to be honest. I do quite like the effect. I think that's what you have to do. You just have to really, you know, practice and experiment. Well, experiment really, and to try and get the marks that you want. Now we've got some things going on over here, but it's pretty indistinct because it's actually behind some vegetation. So I'm just going to put in some very rough ideas of marks. I'm mixing a bit more paint here. And yeah, we've got something quite dark going on here, so I'm going to put that in, but not much of it. Let's put some... Oh, we're going to have to rescue this, aren't we? I can feel it in my bones. There's probably a much better idea of something that I can use. What could I use to make this work better? I want to get fine lines. I could use a palette knife, but I think, let's try a palette knife. See, I'm just taking it off my spatula like that, mixing it in a bit because I've got some blue there, and then got some on my palette knife. Don't want great blobs of it, and I just want to get some lines in. That's kind of worked, not brilliantly well. Let's try another thing. One of my painter's guides, I don't know what you call them. You can see I'm making a terrible mess on the edge, not all the way down because I don't want it all the way down. I don't want it too many blobs. Let's see if that works. And then you sort of lay it down and you put it to one side. That's worked. Very straight though, so I'm going to... Right, so I want some down here, so I have to push that paint back down to where it's needed, like that. I want some, you know, when you want... I'm just going to give the idea of vegetation, and I'm laying it down a bit to get more. They're very straight lines, and I don't think that all twigs have got very, very straight lines, but hey, oops, that's quite big. You know, sometimes they're a bit bent over and going at different angles, so let's put that in. I'm going to just draw that across there, see what that does. Kind of gives it the illusion of bark, which I really like. And we can have, that could be two trees together. Okay, there we go. That's making some quite nice trunk shapes, isn't it? I'm just holding it quite flat and drawing it across, so you get this really Lovely effect. Now, make sure that you wipe that paint off. As you can see, over the years, I haven't been very good at doing that. So over here, I want to get the sense of some vegetation, a bush or something. And I'm going to do that with my spatula. And I'm mixing up some more green, a little bit of brown in it. I just want to sort of get some different shapes going on to represent a bush. So you'll see some of the lines disappear, but hopefully we'll keep some of them in. And similarly, down here, we want some different textures going on. I quite like that. Going on there. And up here, we've got some quite dark green. Now I need to make this darker. I don't really want to use black, and I can't seem to find my raw umber. Where are you, raw umber? Weirdly unimpressive when you just see the colour, but very, very useful colour in painting, I think. At least I think it is. So, more ultramarine, more raw umber, and you get this deep olivey green. Look how much paint I've got on there, and I'm just going to double check what's going on. It's not too, I want to see quite a lot of the sky coming through here, so I don't want to make it too obvious. And we've got some dark going over in that corner. But you see, I'm just touching it quite lightly to this paper, and because the paper has a slight texture and it looks really, really nice. Just adding some lighter greens up here. It isn't quite that light, but we want the vegetation all across, but we still want that light shining through from there. So let's see, we want quite a dark colour coming in here. I don't want it to be actually blue, but let's just make sure we get some. And we've got this lovely bit of, I don't know what it is, vegetation going on here. Make that less obvious. And then this lovely dark, so what was I doing? I was doing this bit here. This is sort of a mound going on here, it looks like. So let's paint that in. So it's less brown, more green, and I'm going to paint it in like that. Shadow goes down here. So you can see we're building up the layers now. And as I said before, that's what adds the interest to the painting. We've got some darks in here, which I'm going to draw. I keep on saying draw, I'm painting, aren't I? Come on then, paint. Like that. So we've got this one here, which I think needs to be a bit darker. It needs to be more, oh, look at that. What on earth are you doing? Let's get rid of that. Don't know if I'll be able to deal with that actually. Let's see. Might have to paint over that. I've still got some of that lovely white. Let's see if I can, oh no, that's not worked, has it? Right, I'm going to have to deal with that later. Don't know how. Get that darker. This time, try and be a bit more careful. There we go. There we go. See, the thing about this one, I do like these square-ended palette knives. Doesn't bend in the same sort of way. I have got to get rid of this. It's just destroying me at the moment. Let's get rid of you. Might just paint over with some vegetation. Silly, right? There we go. Let's take stock of what we've got. If you want to learn more about expressive painting, do check out my books on Amazon. Got nice light colours going on. We've got the darks. We need more dark going on down here. And I'm going to put some in here. This is a bit on the flat side, I think, here, so let's just put some marks in here to just sort of get a feeling of more depth, really. Yeah, more depth into this painting. That's a bit too dark, I think. Let's get that lighter. So you get all these lovely marks going on, and makes it so much more exciting to look at. As I keep on saying, make a mark and leave it. Don't faff around. Just making. I love the way this paper, it may wrinkle up terribly when I might have to flatten it somehow, but or you could stretch it, you know, like you do with watercolour paper, which I never used to bother with. I always used to buy the expensive heavy stuff because it just was so much easier to use. Now I'm going to stand back and again take this. There is that olive colour running through this painting, you know, that olive green, sorry, running through the photograph, so I'm going to put a little bit more in. Because I quite like it. That's a tiny bit on the brown side. It's not a tiny bit on the brown side, it's actually massively on the brown side. Let's get that off and put in more olive. And again, layering, continuing to layer, but obviously go steady. You do not want to overdo this. You don't want to end up making it, losing the freshness that you've got, that you've worked so hard to get in it. Okay, now I'm loath to do too much more. I do need to get some more up here though. I'm going to make that quite light. Because there is quite a lot of vegetation up here. I want to just drop in some lights if I can. Okay. And the other thing that this painting, or the photograph I should say, has in it are some very light leaves, I think they are. I thought it was flowers, but it's not flowers. I could just do a splatter. I might just do a splatter. I love a splatter. So, this is a bristle brush, slightly wet. It's a very, very sort of light olivey green. That's showing up in my photo of this. Let's see if this works. I'm loving what's going on down here. Probably should let this dry and then put a coat of acrylic medium over it as an isolation coat. That protects what you've done so far. So if you then want to go in and do something like this as a bit of an experiment, then if it doesn't work you can just wipe it off, but I'm just going to go for it. A tiny bit more water and splat. Well, that's not working very well. There we go. I think this brush is not quite the right brush. It needs to have quite long bristles, so it flicks quite well, but it has to be quite firm as well. That's sort of working, but I'm not getting particularly large blobs. There we go, that's a bit better. Well, there we go. Oh, there we go. All of a sudden, It's all in the technique, and also the amount of paint that you ladle onto your brush. So, you know, it is experimenting. Just mixing in with some green, so it's a slightly different colour. That's working. I want some, there we go, there we go, there we go, there we go. Right. Quit while you're ahead, Keddie. Put some quite big blobs there, I'm not sure about those. I'm also not sure how on earth I'll get rid of them. Lift them off a little bit with a dry brush, maybe. There we go. Just to... I'm going to leave that. It's a quick sketch on paper, but I'm going to leave it to dry and then take the tape off, and we'll see what it actually looks like without all that yellow tape already. So here's the final piece. It's all dry. I've taken the sticky stuff off. There's just one little bit holding it up to the wall. It just looks great, I think, with that crisp edge around the outside. If you wanted to, you could actually mount this on some board and then frame it so that it's floating on the board. This paper has actually worked out reasonably well. It's not too crinkly, so I think I can straighten that out. You can still see some of the little graphite marks. I think that just adds to the depth of the painting. It's always good to photograph your work after you've finished or at stages throughout the process, and then view it through your camera or your phone or whatever, because you tend to see things that aren't quite right, more so than if you're just looking at it like this. And I did in fact notice that there's this strange oblong mark here which I am going to adjust. I'll change that slightly, but apart from that, I really like what's happened here. It's very rough, it's very expressive. We could go in again and do a little bit more work, but I just quite like the freshness of it. It makes a great piece for my sketchbook, and I love doing it. It was fun. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and drop me some comments. Tell me what you think. Tell me what your preferred style is, and if there's anything you'd like me to video for you that will help you in your practice. It's been lovely seeing you again, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.